Welcome everybody to our weekly live new listings. Today we're going to showcase 22 of our new listings, but we're going to talk also about something quite exceptional that's happening right now with the interest rate. It's just coming out right now. It just came out. It's hitting everywhere on the news. We will have a special guest with us, Mike, today.
Yes.
A guest that you've seen here on the show before, Matthew Alexander Poupart. We're going to also look at how that's going to affect the rate, is going to affect the major banks, the major six banks. Mike, if you want to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to affect it pretty harsh, I would think. First of all, I think that it's a major situation that's happening right now, especially the fact that we see that the interest rates went down 25 basis points, which brings it down to 2.75. Now, I think it sends a strong message through everyone in Canada that regardless of what's going on, they want to go with this aggressive approach to stimulate the economy so people don't get scared. And I think it's a great move.
All right, let's check in right now with Matthew Alexander, Poupart mortgage broker. How are you, Matthew?
I'm doing great, thanks. If you asked me about a month ago, I would have said that I wasn't sure that the Bank of Canada would cut by 0.25%. I thought that they might end up holding and pausing and not actually cutting. But with all the uncertainty being created with this tariff kind of battle or tariff war that a lot of media outlets are calling it, the Bank of Canada just didn't want to risk pausing and the economy suffering because their outlook on the GDP for Canada has changed dramatically. And it's the same for the US, right? So with the Bank of Canada cutting by 0.25%, we're seeing that the variable rates now start at about 4%. So if you're looking to buy a property and you're leaning towards variable, that rate is now starting at around 4% for an insured purchase. And that's massive. We have variable rates that have caught up to the fixed rates being offered. So rates are kind of balancing out now.
Last time we saw that 2.75 as a benchmark was 2005, and it was a very stable market. It's still not something low enough to stimulate, but it is a push forward. What can you tell us about what you think is going to happen for the next 3-4 months on the real estate side of the market?
We see real estate just follow the interest rate trend, right? So when rates are trending upwards, the real estate market slows. But when rates start coming down, we really see an uptick, especially when the media has these announcements about the Bank of Canada. So even though fixed rates have been coming down for about a year and a half now, it's been in the last 8 months that the media has really been talking about the Bank of Canada rate cuts. And that creates the sentiment that the real estate market needs for people to kind of look into the market, and everyone who is on the sidelines now kind of jumps back in and says, okay, now it's time to buy. Rates are coming down. I don't want to miss my chance. And that's what we're seeing, right? The last 3 months has been pretty, we've seen a huge uptick in buyers, and that's going to continue with this rate announcement today.
I also took, Matthew, the statistics for February, and looking back, when we look at the January year over year, we had an increase in number of transactions of 48%. For the month of February, and this just came out, the increase was much less at 90% year over year. Sales volume was a 28% increase, but I'm interested in the number of transactions. I think it gives us a clear indication of the activity level and the effect of all this tariffs on off conversation. Do you feel the same way about the numbers of February?
Yeah, so they're still trending in the same direction, but obviously this uncertainty that TIFF at the Bank of Canada is feeling Canadians are feeling the same, right? There's a lot more uncertainty, so people aren't necessarily as confident in investing that, say, down payment into a house right now, but it's still trending in the right direction. So on one end, we have rates coming down, which is going to drive that market, but we also have a bit of uncertainty with this kind of tariff war and the potential for inflation to pick back up, pulling in the other direction. So it seems like rates are winning right now, but yeah.
And I believe that, Mike, I don't know if you would agree, but our expectation before all this tariff stuff was more in line with January's increase of 48. And I felt that, or thought that February was going to be a similar type of increase. Now that this back and forth has been going on, do you think, Mike, that people are going to be maybe less sensitive to these conversations just because it's kind of the
Yeah.
what's the expression, the cries wolf, or it's
Yeah.
kind of There is tariffs in place, but there's not maybe a direct impact. It's kind of the new norm now of feeling the.
Well, I think the Canada's just sending a strong message that they're not going to be bullied and they're just going to go ahead and do what they're supposed to do anyway. And what it does is that it also gives the sentiment that we're strong and that you can continue and we have confidence in what's going on. So, I mean, for people that were scared, because we did see a little bit of a change in February in terms of the numbers of transactions, people kind of like got shaken a little bit. So now this would definitely put them in a position to say, well, everything's fine. Let's just go ahead.
Matthew, what do you think the tone will be? What's the message we're sending to the USA with what we're doing and what the decisions are that we're making here as Canadians?
I think what Mike said is right. We're not going to get bullied, and is that the right approach? I think so for now, but it's also a very tough situation for Canada to deal with. I think so far they're doing an okay job. We don't necessarily have the upper hand, but it also seems like what they're doing in the States is just they don't necessarily have a real game plan, or maybe they do, but it's not very clear.
So Matthew, you've been in the States not that long ago. Actually, we were talking about that off camera just before. Any sense there? Any conversation when the Americans find out you're Canadian? Any sense of support, or what's the pulse like down in Florida where you were?
So I was, like you said, in Florida. I was in Little Quebec. So I mean, we're quite. There's a lot of us down there, but. I was also there while it was Canada versus USA, the Four Nations tournament. So I guess the Americans weren't as keen on having Canadians in their bars watching the hockey games. But no, it was. I think honestly for me, and it was maybe right before the tariff kind of war started, but it was business as usual. They were happy to have us, and I didn't feel any animosity, to be honest.
That's some great stuff. Anything you want to add before we go, Matthew?
I think, we might see the Bank of Canada cut another 0.5% in the next 12 months. I think those are the market implied odds right now. So we're going to see that rate probably come down some more. Doesn't mean that it'll happen at the next rate announcement, which I think is April 16th. But in the next 12 months, we are expecting to see that rate come down a little bit more. And that'll just stimulate the market some more.
Well, that would be great. And we'll make sure to touch base again with you shortly. We thank you very much for being here today and sharing your knowledge about what's going on the mortgage side of things. Now we're going to continue with our listings. We have 22 to show you. We're going to start with 3 beautiful listings all across the Greater Montreal, starting with the Sophia Chen, Mike.
Sophia Chen at 1265 Lambert. And then, of course, we've got Serge and Manon at 4156 Marlin. And then again, we have Serge Gabriel once more at 3808 Avenue Gray.
So we've got the news about the rate, what's happening, but let's look at what is going on locally. What does that mean for the real estate market? We talked about it briefly, Mike.
Yep.
The pulse of all this tariffs going back and forth. It's on, it's off, it's on this, it's not no longer on that. I said that February for the Greater Montreal area, number of transaction was up by only 8% over last year. And to just put that into perspective, January was 48% over this year, over last year, number of transactions, which was a reflection of where we thought the market was going to go before we started with the trade war conversation. So on the streets, Mike, with the real estate brokers, what's the conversation? How's the pulse of the market doing for February and up to today?
I don't think anything's really changed. I mean, statistically speaking, we saw that there was a bit of a slowdown. So I think that maybe if brokers were dealing with buyers, maybe the buyers were a little bit reluctant to maybe make a move, but it doesn't mean that they were not visiting. It doesn't mean that they were not looking at, the stuff itself. But I think that in the end, what we're noticing is that with the move that happened today, then I think it's going to spark to continue on with what we were expecting for this spring to be a lot of movement in the real estate market, especially in Quebec.
If you have concerns, you're watching this, you're a potential buyer, seller, investor, you want to reach out, ask some questions, go into the comments and ask away. You don't even have to use your real name if you want, and we'll answer your question, but it's always good to ask. We have a group of professionals all across the Greater Montreal, and as you've seen, we also have suppliers and people, a network we work with, as Mathieu Poupart was here just a few minutes ago, mortgage broker. So we can answer all these different questions. Let's look at some more listings, Mike, when we go to Le Carrefour with Yang Yang.
Right. So we got Yang Yang Zhang at 3035 Le Carrefour, followed by François de Rancourt at 5850 Avenue Papineau. And then we've got the Brodies at 571 Rock Hill.
Let's go look at some more, if you don't mind, Mike.
Sure. I mean, we're on fire. Yeah, I see that. Okay. So we got the Brodies again in Beaconsfield at 141 Beaconsfield. And we've got Scott Brody at 240 Murray. And then followed through with Alain Carrière at 120 Petit Saint-Régis.
So we're talking about the market. It's moving fast out there. The transactions are up, we said, by 8% over last year. The number of listings is going up. As you can see, every week we showcase all the new listings of our agency, but there's also all the other properties that are going up the market. We talked about 500 new properties for this from week to week, roughly, on the island of Montreal only. If you want more statistics about different local areas, that it be the North Shore, anywhere in the province of Quebec for that matter, we can certainly send you that information by email or by DM. How the market is feeling, Mike, you talked about it a bit here. Yeah. The spring is here, the weather's warming up. Are you seeing some kind of a push towards more activity, even more than what we have now?
I'm seeing that it's going to happen. I mean, talking about spring, I mean, it felt a little bit warm yesterday when we went to that meeting. So I'm seeing the snow melt. So that's a good sign. And probably what that will mean also is that on Friday, we'll probably have a lot more open houses. Usually when there's nice weather, we tend to have more open houses. So it's probably something that we're looking for this weekend, but it is looking promising as we look.
Let's go see some more beautiful properties all across the greater Montreal area from our real estate brokers. And then we're going to talk about rental market. There's some interesting stuff happening on that end.
So we'll start with Ryan Senior at 9701 Ceres. And then we have Lily Lee at 240 Richelieu. Then we have Marie Van Pint and her team, two listings here at 21 Gable Court and 31 Vipon.
So how popular is renting right now when you consider that the rate is going down? Again, it went down today by 1/4 of a point. What is and why would you want to rent right now? What are the circumstances that would push someone to want to rent?
Well, I think a lot of people that were in rental properties were for more than one reason. I think one reason is that the lack of inventory. A lot of people had sold their houses and weren't able to find something that they wanted. The second reason was that a lot of people weren't able to qualify with the high interest rates that they had at the time. So now, given the fact that the interest rates have come down quite a bit, so this could be an opportunity for them to be able to jump back in. Now, that being said, we still have the lack of inventory. So it doesn't help because we're finding a lot of multiple offers, a lot of situations where, it starts at one price, ends up at another because 10 people are jumping on the same thing. And that, again, depending on the region that you're looking at. If you're looking at a place that's high in demand, then of course you're going to pay more. If you're going more on the peripheral area of Montreal, then you might be able to get a better deal. So it's something to look at.
And when we talk about availability of housing, vacancy, we know that a lot of developers were jumping into the rental market because the interest rates were high. It takes a certain amount of time to build these properties. And then now they're coming on the market, the rate's going down. So there's going to be some less expensive options probably on the rental side. And the vacancy, we talked about it a few weeks ago, is up. So there's many different options. I think it's an exciting time for anybody that you'd be looking for renting, buying, and even investing. Everything's in line right now to favor any of these categories. Let's keep looking at our beautiful listings that are brand new on the market. These won't last. So if you're interested in any of them, I invite you to reach out immediately to us. Mike, if you want to.
Sure. So we go with 2118 Saint-Dominique with the Bissamara Victor and Alexandra Fatal. And then we have 5700 Cavendish, which will be Miss Halamy. And then we have Yu Yang at 2120 St. Catherine, followed by Camellia Fati at 29 Summerhill.
I think we're going to continue before we end with the last four properties. And we have a little surprise for you just at the end, Mike.
Well, that's fun. So we're going to go with Nesreba at 1188 Union. And then we have Mr. Yasser at 140 to 146 5th Avenue, 5th Avenue. And then Alec Rafa at 1420 Sherbrooke. And then Carly Friedman at 11089 Laurentide.
So everything real estate is what we want to talk about every week. Every Wednesday we showcase the new listings of the week, and there's quite a few. It's interesting. Some of these properties are coming on the market as we speak, but we showcase them for you. You see them here. I invite you to go to our website, melorgroup.ca, for many more properties that are available, more pictures, more videos. Mike, we want to take a minute to say a few words. You wanted to...
Sure. Well, what I'll say is that, if you're in the market of looking for real estate, whether you want to rent, whether you want to buy, whether you want to get an evaluation on your home, I mean, maybe you just have questions about real estate, and maybe you're just reluctant to be able to find out, well, what are the procedures, what you need to know, what the laws are. So if that's the case, look, by any means, don't hesitate to communicate with us. You can send us a DM on all platforms, give us a phone call, send us an email. And like I said, we'd be more than happy to help you out.
Okay, before we go, this is the surprise Sunday. Sunday, Mike, is a big day in Montreal. It's the 200th annual St. Pat. Rain day.
Yeah.
So what do you think this weekend? We're supposed to have some good weather. It's from Fort and St. Catherine Street downtown.
Right.
So don't miss it, 12 to 4 o'clock. And with that, though, we will see you Friday for our open houses of the week. If you missed today's show, you can rewatch it on YouTube on my channel, Etienne Mellor. And make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you Friday for the open houses, same time.
Have a good day.